You're listening to Beyond Wellness Radio, bringing you the cutting edge in health, biohacking, and sports performance. Stay up to date and listen anywhere and anytime on your computer, tablet, or smartphone by subscribing on iTunes. Catch your host, Dr. Justin Marchegiani, as he answers your burning health questions as well as interviews from world-renowned guest experts. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to beyondwellnessradio.com.
Hey there, it's Dr. Justin Marchegiani. Welcome to Beyond Wellness Radio. Feel free and head over to beyondwellnessradio.com where you can access our full podcast transcriptions. While you're there, you can also sign up for our thyroid and female hormone video series. This series goes into the root cause of why your hormones are out of balance. While you're there, you can also schedule a functional medicine consult with Dr. Justin, myself, where we'll dig deeper into the root cause of your health challenges. Feel free and think of sharing this podcast with at least one person. This podcast grows by people sharing it. Sharing is caring. If you can think of one person that can benefit from this information, please feel free and share it. If you're enjoying the podcast, make sure you subscribe on iTunes. You can also click below the video or podcast where you'll see the iTunes review button and leave us a review. You can also sign up for the newsletter at beyondwellnessradio.com where you'll get updates before anyone else. Thank you so much and enjoy the show. Hey guys, it's Dr. Justin Marchegiani here. Welcome to today's podcast. Evan, how are we doing, brother?
Happy Monday to you, man. I'm doing well. We were chatting about my blood work off air a little bit. I have made significant improvements since we did our podcast on iron. My ferritin was way too high, which was not good. My iron saturation was way too high, which was not good. And I'm coming out of it. So no more heart palpitations, which is good. And blood pressure has been relatively normal, maybe slightly high. Maybe that's stress due to finishing the summit. You know, I don't know. I don't know why else. I have no other reason why my blood pressure would be like 130 over like 85, just slightly high. I've got no answers for it.
Yeah, that isn't that big of a deal. Is that like across the whole course of the day when you're relaxing, watching TV, reading a book?
That's just like in the middle of the day. If I take a random reading, it's just a few points high.
Yeah, it's not too bad. And then what about like if you're doing some housework or you're getting some chores done in the morning?
It's all the same.
Okay.
I've tracked it throughout the day. It's all the same. Now, if I take like an Epsom salt bath and really chill out with like some lavender essential oils, it's like 118 over 78.
Oh, good. That's probably where it is
really
most of the day once you're sleeping and stuff.
Yeah. If I really chill out, it's good.
That's good. Awesome. So it's not too bad.
Yeah.
I know, we were going to chat today about reverse T3 because that was an interesting phenomenon we noticed with you. Your reverse T3 was in the 30s, right? What, 33?
Way too high. Yeah. It was like 33 and a half, almost 34.
Exactly. And when reverse T3, it's basically metabolic blanks in the magazine cartridge of your thyroid hormone. So imagine you have thyroid hormone and it binds to a receptor site. So here's your hormone, the key. Here's the lock, which is the receptor site. It has to kind of go in and you have to be able to turn it basically for that hormone to work. So imagine essentially like the key in your pocket is like reverse T3. It can't get into the receptor site. Or in other words, imagine someone puts gum in the hole for your house key, right? So then when you go to put that reverse T3 in there, that gum is like reverse T3. It gums up literally the receptor site. So when that key goes to bump in there to actually create a metabolic effect or unlock your door, so to speak, now it can't work. So reverse T3 is basically the body's metabolic brakes of being able to block thyroid hormone from getting into the receptor site and creating that metabolic effect.
And this is a protective mechanism. I mean, in ancient times, if we were under a significant amount of stress, like running away from a bear, it would be a good idea, theoretically, for reverse T3 to go high, because if you're hiding behind a tree for a week from a bear, you don't want your metabolism firing on all cylinders. We would hope reverse T3 would kick in and sort of slow things down a bit.
Exactly. 100%. So reverse T3 is that natural way of kind of slowing things down. Now, there's lots of ways that reverse T3 can go, lots of reasons why reverse T3 can go high. It can go high from low cortisol or high cortisol. And again, high cortisol can easily be from acute stressors, emotional stress, prolonged emotional stress, right? Most people, their basically their adrenal system responds to stress, and then that stress ceases, and then you come back down to baseline. But if you're under chronic emotional stress, work, family, relationships, finances, and it stays high all the time, that can definitely create cortisol resistance, kind of like insulin resistance. And then, of course, chronic adrenal stress will eventually create HPA axis dysfunction. That's your brain talking to your adrenals. That feedback loop starts to get disrupted, and then cortisol can start to go low longer term. And we also need cortisol for that thyroid hormone conversion. And low cortisol tends to be a sign of chronic stress, and that reverse T3 mechanism can still be active where you get the gum into the door lock, which is gumming up that T3 from having a metabolic effect.
Yeah, and we measure adrenals all the time. We do a test called the Cortisol Awakening Response Panel. So we have 6 saliva samples that we collect throughout a 24-hour period. This is something that our clients do at home, and we can measure the total cortisol sum. And I've seen some crazy low levels. I'm sure you have too, like 10, 12, 14 total cortisol sum for the full day. 12 units, which is so low. I mean, really, you should be at about 30 units of a cortisol sum. So we're seeing tons of people. I mean, this is people that are doing all the right things too. They're exercising, they're eating a good diet. I mean, these are not your average Americans sitting and watching TV for 8 hours and eating McDonald's. Like, these are people that are doing all the low-hanging fruit, and their cortisol still comes back so low, which is a big factor in why their thyroid's not working too. So, you got to get this stuff looked at. The interesting thing too about cortisol in this whole conversation, if you're trying to guess with cortisol, like you're just like, oh, Dr. J, I don't want to test. Here's the thing. High cortisol and low cortisol can feel the same. So like if you have high cortisol, which I've had several women with high cortisol, they're exhausted. And they're like, okay, my cortisol's got to be low. I'm so tired, but we measure them and the cortisol's through the roof. And then vice versa. We've had people where the cortisol's flatlined and they are tired. So like you can't guess with this stuff.
100%. And most people are only getting a snapshot of their thyroid. So their conventional doctor may only be looking at TSH, or if you're lucky, maybe TSH and T4. And again, the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism has said that TSH and T4 are a poor level, a poor indicator of one's thyroid function. So we really want to look at T4, but also T3 free. And again, if we can run T3 free in total, at least initially, it's better. Same with T4 free in total, because then we can get a window into the free fraction hormone, what's available to bind to the receptor site, and the total fraction hormone, right? Total is like what the gland is producing. About 98% of that hormone is bound to a protein, right? So, right, the key in your hand, that's the free hormone, right? The key in your pocket, that's the protein-bound hormone, right? The key that you can't get out because it's in your pocket or purse, that's the total fraction. The key that's in your hand, that's the free. That's the one that can bind to the receptor site. So imagine for every, 9 keys floating around your bloodstream, hormone keys, 9 of them are in your pocket, 1's in your hand. So only 1 can actually, I should say even less than that, it would be 98%. So do the math, right? Let's just say 98 keys floating around are in someone's pocket, 2 are in your hand. So only a small amount can bind to that receptor site.
We also want to get the antibodies too. Let's tell people what they should be asking their doctor or maybe their endocrinologist for. And you're probably going to get pushback, which is why we do what we do and provide blood testing for people.
Correct. So let me just highlight a couple more things before I shift to the autoimmune piece. Yeah. So that fits in because chronic inflammation can easily affect reverse T3. So one of the biggest things of chronic inflammation would be autoimmunity. And we know a large percent of people that have thyroid issues, it's partly because there's an autoimmune mechanism that's active. Thyroid tissue is getting attacked and destroyed. The antibodies can have also an aspect where they can kind of clog and congest receptor sites a little bit, kind of like reverse T3 can. That inflammation can prevent that binding from happening. Reverse T3 also does it. Remember, reverse T3 is the gum in the keyhole, right? Or if we're on Hollywood set and we have like one, a gun, right? It's the blank, the metabolic blank in the gun. It fills up the spot in the magazine cartridge where the real, hollow point bullet would be, so to speak. So again, chronic inflammation, that plugs into the autoimmune piece. We talked about Lyme. We talked about other stress. We talked about gluten. So there's anything that's a physical, chemical, or emotional stressor could be increasing that reverse T3.
We could say dairy as well, anything that's going to affect the gut. I mean, we have to assume if you've got to elevate a reverse T3, there could be something going on in the gut. Now, just for my specific case, I did get my GI map stool test. What was it? Maybe 2-3 months ago. I didn't have any parasites or worms or H. pylori anymore. All that stuff's cleared out. I did have a few bacterial overgrowth, nothing that was insanely high, but a few bacterial overgrowth species. So I do have a little bit of gut work to continuously improve upon. And then also liver function as well. You and I were kind of talking pre-show about liver and how that's influenced in terms of reverse T3 levels. So if you do have Lyme or you have infections that are creating stress or creating garbage, essentially, you've got to do some liver support. And we do this almost every time with gut protocols.
Yeah, 100%. So the chronic gut infections easily get missed just because they're underneath the surface. And a good percent of people, I'd say close to half, may not have the typical symptoms: bloating, gas, diarrhea, malnourishment, weight loss, like those kind of things. They may have other issues like brain fog and energy issues. Maybe never connect the dots. And
Can I tell you an interesting story?
Yeah.
So a client I had this morning, a guy who was working with like a Lyme literate medical doctor. The guy asked his doctor to run the GI map stool test on him to look for parasites. And the Lyme literate doctor told the guy, no, he would not run that test because we live in America and there's no parasites in America.
Right. And that's kind of the big misconception. Again, indoor plumbing, sanitation, dishwashers, soap, all those things have helped, but there are still certain infectious debris we may get exposed to. And with our chronic immune stress and lower, IgA or gut immune barrier function, we can very easily come up with an infection. Not to mention when we're chronically activating the sympathetic nervous system, that's going to decrease our hydrochloric acid and enzyme levels. And HCl, keeps a nice low acidic pH, and that low acidic pH can act like disinfectant to infections in your gut tract.
Yeah, but everybody is rushing through their meals, or they're eating while distracted, or they're on proton pump inhibitors, whether prescription or over-the-counter acid blockers, reducing stomach acid, making the gut more alkaline, and then you eat your sushi and you pick up bugs. And then the food supply is international. So if you get your organic blueberries at Whole Foods, a lot of times those are from Chile or some other country. And so your food supply is international. I don't care if you're not an international traveler, because your food traveled internationally for you. Look at your pineapple from Costa Rica, but you live in New York City,
That makes a really good point, man. You're just being so darn practical today. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So let's look at a couple questions if you want to. Or did you have some other points you wanted to make first?
Yeah, a couple other points. I think we hit the reverse T3 part. So when we look at a complete thyroid panel, TSH and T4, most people only run TSH. That's a brain hormone, right? It's part of the pituitary gland. It's what talks to the thyroid to make T4. T4 is free and total. Free is what binds the receptor sites. The total represents, 98%, outside of the free. And that gives you a total, picture of how much hormone the gland is actually producing. Then you have T3, which is converted. And then T3 free is the actual, metabolically active thyroid hormone, about 400 to 500% more than T4. And then you have the free fraction, which is the same thing as the T4 free. It's what's actually biologically available. And then depending on stress levels, you can take that T4. There's an alternate pathway where it goes into reverse T3. So normally T4, right, metabolically inactive, by 400 to 500%, converts to T3. And then we have the suboptimal pathway where it goes to reverse T3. And all of those various stressors that we mentioned, it could be adrenal stress, it could be cortisol issues, inflammation issues, any physical, chemical, or emotional stressor will cause this reverse T3 pathway to be optimized and used.
Yeah, we were talking about my lab. So my reverse T3 back in April was in the mid 30s. It was about 34. And then now we retested it just last week. It was like 22. So I've dropped like over 12 points with reverse T3. Still high. I think the reference range was like 0 to 25. So I'm still a little elevated on the high end there at 22, but I'm hoping no longer traveling, no longer having surgeries. The cavitations are cut out of my gums now. I'm taking my liver and adrenal supports. I'm getting good sleep lately. I'm taking some lemon balm at night to help with sleep. I feel like that reverse T3 is going to continue to drop. My hands and feet, remember how I told you my hands and feet were real freezing? It's not happening as much anymore. So maybe that reverse T3 was blocking that active T3, and that's why my hands were cold.
It's very possible. And your numbers went down from what, 33 to 24, 21?
I think I'm at 22. I went from about 34 to 22. So about 12 points in about 6 weeks.
So 34 to 22.
Yeah.
That's like a 35% drop. That's great. That's a huge drop. And ideally, we want to be below 20, but you're right on the cusp now.
I'm headed that direction. I hope over the next few weeks I should be below 20, and I'll probably retest in a few months. I'm not going to retest right away like I did this time. I was just really concerned about my ferritin being above 500. Now ferritin, I believe, I'd have to look back at my lab here. I believe ferritin now was actually, man, you're not going to believe this.
What's that?
Let me tell you what it was before, okay? Just for us to be accurate here in our speaking. Okay, so ferritin in mid-April was 548. This was on April 25th. I was at a 548. I just retested last week, and ferritin is 187.
Wow.
So let me just, I already did the math before, but let me just do it again. 548.
Did I hear 548 to
187. So 361 points.
Yeah, so we do the math on that. That's a 65% drop. It's great.
Yeah, and I feel better too, and I don't have any heart palpitations anymore because that was like almost every night. I'd be sitting on the couch and my heart would just, oh my God, I'd have these crazy heartbeats. It's not happening anymore.
Wow.
Now, was that the infections in the gum causing that, releasing toxins into the bloodstream? Was that some thyroid stuff? I don't know.
Interesting. Well, I mean, I think there's definitely a big stressor with the gum. So I think getting that chronic inflammatory stressor eradicated could have made a big difference. It really sounds like it did.
Yeah, and by the way, if you guys saw our live podcast we did together a few weeks ago, Justin made me a grass-fed steak for dinner. It was the best steak ever. So if Justin ever hosts a retreat, if he's the cook, which I vote him to be the steak cook, you guys are going to be super impressed.
Excellent. I appreciate the feedback on that. Awesome. And then one last thing I wanted to talk about regarding T3 is there's also some inactive T3 in your gut, T3 acetic acid and T3 sulfate. And that's important. These different T3s in your gut are actually relatively inactive at about 20% of T3s in your gut. It's acetic acid, T3 acetic acid, T3 sulfate. And there's an enzyme called sulfatase that's made by your healthy gut bacteria. So healthy gut bacteria can activate that T3 acetic acid, T3 sulfate, and that can activate and bring your T3 levels up. So that's why having a healthy gut can really help improve that. Not necessarily your reverse T3, but more your inactive T3 in the gut. That's another component people don't talk about.
No, they don't. And here's the cool thing too. It's like knowing that mechanism is cool, but even if you and I didn't know that mechanism, we would still get good results because our goal is always to eradicate the bad guys and restore health to the good guys. Knowing that mechanism makes us want to do our job even more and do our job harder and more efficiently and effectively. But even if we didn't know that mechanism, it's kind of like one of those things you and I are fixing by accident. Like even if we didn't know that mechanism, oh, great. Restoring your gut bacteria happened to improve thyroid conversion, and then taking off the load of the adrenals by removing infections, that improves conversion too. So like when people ask, what's the silver bullet? There's not one because we're moving so many levers at the same time.
And that's part of what our job is. And that's why anyone listening, you want to work with a functional medicine doctor or practitioner that has a system that they're working with. Because when you have a system where you're kind of crossing all your T's and dotting all your I's regarding nutrition, supplementation, diet, lifestyle, hydration, addressing each hormonal system, adrenals, thyroid, female or male hormones, gut, infections, immune, digestion, working through the 6 R's, right? Removing the bad foods, replacing enzymes, repairing gut lining and hormones, removing infections, repopulating gut bacteria, retesting. We're having a systematic program. For the most part, it's very difficult for patients for us to miss certain things. And there may be lots of mechanisms that are happening like that one I just mentioned with the T3 that we don't even know about. But when you have a comprehensive approach, you address it. Lots of people, even in the natural world, are seeing the natural doctor that only addresses the thyroid, that only addresses the gut. And there's a good chance they could miss other mechanisms by not treating the whole person there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Well, let me just say it in a different way to make it super clear for people. If you go to a specialist, like I'm a functional blah, 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 but all I do is thyroid, in my opinion, and Justin would agree, those people are going to be limited in their effect that they can provide for you. If you go to someone and it's the adrenal guy, and that's all he does, adrenals, he's limited. If you go to a gal and all she is female hormones, she's limited. So like we're specialists in the sense of like functional medicine is its own specialty, but you don't want to just use a microscope. You've got to use a macroscope at the same time.
100%. And you have to distinguish marketing from treatment. Like I market a lot to thyroid. Now, that does not mean I only do thyroid. I market to thyroid, but we address the gut to actually fix the thyroid or the detox to fix the thyroid. So I think if you're going to reach out to someone that's a functional medicine specialist that only, like, let's say does the thyroid or female hormones, you'd want to interview them and or ask them questions and say, hey, do you also address the gut to help the female hormones and thyroid? Do you also address the adrenals to affect the female hormones and thyroid? So you just want to ask those questions to make sure, because some people market that way, but how they treat encompasses everything. So if you do find someone that you do like, you just want to make sure you ask those questions.
Or just see if they have regular content. We're such big fans
That's
of
the key thing. Look at the content, because then you can already know.
And if they have somebody else writing their articles and they seem like they're disconnected from their practice, does that mean they suck? Maybe not, but Justin and I are big, like we practice what we preach and we're in the trenches constantly. And then I'm sharing my health stories. I mean, how many practitioners are telling you they had heart palpitations and blood pressure issues and blah, blah, blah. No, they want to like act like they've got it all figured out and their health is perfect. And now you can be just like them and be perfect. You just have to pay one easy payment of $199 per month. It's like, I'm going to tell you guys the truth. And I think people resonate with that. And we get feedback every week. Oh, Justin, you and Evan and blah, blah, blah. So I know we're on the right track with the way we're educating people.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate your candor, Evan, sharing all this great information. Is there anything else you want to leave today's listeners with?
Yes. If they want to check out or schedule a consult with you, learn more about your clinic, etc., check out justinhealth.com. That's the site. And Justin's got another functional medicine doc that he has fully trained behind the scenes. So that is awesome. And I've also heard great things. So check out justinhealth.com. And then if you'd like to reach out to me, same thing, my site, evanbrand.com. And Candida Summit's coming up. So if you guys haven't registered, Justin has his own special link, which he can give, which is justinhealth.com/Candida.
That's it.
Okay, so type in justinhealth.com/Candida. Go register for the summit. It's literally, imagine missing 35 of our best talks ever. That's what it's like if you miss out on this event. So go register, and we look forward to talking with you guys again soon, and we'll look forward to consulting with you in the meantime.
100%. Head over to evanbrand.com as well for the same great content and info. Give us a thumbs up, give us a share, subscribe, hit the bell. The bell will allow you to get notifications when we do these future live podcasts and my live Q&As as well. Smash that bell. That way you get the notifications. Hey, Evan, thanks so much for being here today. And everyone listening, appreciate you staying in touch and look forward to talking soon. Take care.
Got a question for Dr. J? Go to BeyondWellnessRadio.com and click the questions button. Then tune in to hear the answer. Also, if you like the show, click below to review us on iTunes. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to BeyondWellnessRadio.com.